Hello, everyone. So thank you to Mimi and Tammy at Surfberg for pulling such an amazing event together with speakers one by one. Incredible and such a great location. I want to thank Civic Hall for having us here and everybody who's here and helping and making this work, Drive-In Productions, who's recording us, and obviously you for being here, gifting us with your time and attention and love. So I am the youngest of 3 daughters. I was raised in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, and I want to tell you that I am my father's favorite. And it's not a secret, and I'm proud of it. My father always used to say, I love this girl so much, she's full of joie de vivre. I was growing up in Brazil, joie de vivre. The word sounded so beautiful, so French. I didn't even understand what it was, but I carried it with pride. And with time, I understood what it meant, and I carried this responsibility of being joyful all the time, even though I was joyful, but it was my badge of honor. You know, I was daddy's little girl. And I was so joyful. I was really a child that little things made me so, so happy. And I grew up, and it didn't matter if I was bullied in school, and I was, and it didn't matter if there were harder times and easier times in my life. Overall, I was a person full of joy. I grew up, I got married. I'm gonna do a side, I didn't even have that plan, but I'll tell you that I met my husband, and after 3 dates, I proposed. That's how joyful. I knew what I wanted, and I went for it, and that's how I led my life. We're married for 30 years, thank God. Until one day that I was not joyful. And my life shattered, and I'm so happy that Celine was here before, and she volunteered that bowl. Because when the rug was pulled from under me, and I looked down, what I saw was exactly what Celine made it happen here on this stage. And when she told us to close our eyes and envision what dish we are, for me it was a vase. And the vase was on the floor. It was so broken that when I looked at the pieces, so many of them were sand. They were broken in such tiny little pieces that I didn't even think that I could actually put them together. And then, where was the joie de vivre? What I was all about, it was my essence, and it was no longer. What happened in my life, it doesn't matter. Everybody has a story. The story, that's your personal story. But what matters, and it should matter to all of you, is the path to go from that and to reach joy again. Is it possible? That's what I was asking myself. Is it possible? My husband and I were sitting across each other on a couch at home. Tammy have been there. They know those leather couches, facing one another, and the tears were streaming down. And I'm gonna tell you, I remember till today that the tears felt so hot. I could almost see the vapor coming from those tears. They were so heavy and such sad tears. I told my husband, let's go to the beach for a walk. We go there, we take guys, what's on the beach? Not rocks? Shells. I take shells and I say, okay, this is the pain in my heart. Throw it on the water. I would take another one. This is my regrets. Throw it on the water. And I told my husband something. Till now, we asked for solutions. God, resolve our problem. But we never asked for help. God, just give me strength to go through this. I'm not talking about solutions. I don't know what the reason for my path and my trajectory, but give me strength and make it a little less hard or a lot less hard. I can tell you that we walked back from that day at the beach stronger, much stronger, and we really felt that our prayers had been heard. Days later, I'm sitting on my bed and I received a WhatsApp message from a friend with video. And I watched the video, and the video, is a gentleman who talks about kintsugi. I had never heard about kintsugi before, and you guys all have, thanks to Celine. I see he's talking about the message of kintsugi, of how everything can be repaired. And I saw the visual, and I was, oh my God, I can put my pieces together. And when you research kintsugi, you will see that there are pieces, that there is a big blob of gold in the center. That's because either a piece was not found, or because it was shattered in such small pieces that it was like sand. So I felt, okay, maybe there is a way. When my life had got so messed up, I changed careers. This is before I found out about kintsugi. I had been an ethics and compliance marketer for 25 years, and I loved it because I'm passionate about ethics and compliance, and it's everything that has to do with my being, my core. But I felt that I needed a change because I wanted to be so busy that I wouldn't think about the mess that my life was at that time. And I chose a career that I pretty much knew nothing about, but as a creative individual, I thought that I could manage. But I knew that I would have to be so busy and it would take my mind away from all my troubles. And I became a fashion designer. And I started doing dresses, and I started selling, and things were moving, and I was so freaking miserable because I'm not a fashionista. I didn't really care so much about the clothing and the fashion industry. I'm passionate about ethics and compliance. I was not so crazy about the fashion industry. If anybody knows about fashion knows that it's two opposite spectrums of the whatever you call it. Okay. So I wasn't sure, what am I doing with my life? When I received that video, it was a change in everything that I was doing, because I kept watching the video again and again and again, and I had an idea. Galit asked before, who has an idea? Where is Galit? Not here. Okay. I had an idea. What was my idea? I was going to incorporate kintsugi in my fashion line, and I was going to create clothing that will inspire and empower women to know that they can also get healed, that they can put pieces together. And other people who would see them wearing would also know, wow, I can also put my pieces together. Or they would say, let me be kind towards this person. Maybe they went through something and they're putting their pieces together. 4 months later, my first collection was ready. My line walked down South Florida International Fashion Week, and next to me sat Alfredo Versace, who happens to be my mentor. And after my show, he picks up my hand. He's Gianni's Versace's first cousin, and he's in the fashion industry even before Gianni. He holds my hand and he says like that, Miriam, I want you to know that I've been in more fashion shows than you can imagine. And this is the first time in a very long time that I saw innovation in fashion and something meaningful. And the validation that I was able to make it into the fashion world during such a difficult time in my life, it was something that really gave me strength to continue. And why do I say continue? Because my goal really wasn't to be a fashion designer. My goal really was to touch women's hearts and give them the hope and tell them that there is a way to put their pieces together after breakage. So what did I do? I wanted to interview women who had gone through very difficult things in their lives, but that found joy. And I wanted to find out from them what happened in their lives. How did they reach this moment that they can really say that they have joie de vivre? Because I wanted to gain my joie de vivre back. And I started interviewing the most amazing women just like you and me. And I'm sure that within this group of people, there are women that I would love to have a sit down and interview as well. And what I found was something incredible. So this is me at that time. I forgot to press the button. This is a shoot that I did. I took 3 women. We body painted them. The lady who body painted them is the first woman that I interviewed. Her mother had been raped, and her mother raised this child with such issues about the body, like she was supposed to always be hidden and not talk to boys and not go out. The child ran away from home, and she found healing exactly in the opposite thing that her mother wanted to do with her, which is to shelter her so much. It was to body paint. And she volunteered at this body painting. Oh, let me go back here, because this is very important. When we go through hardship, people kind of want you to get over it, because it's not fun to be next to people who are suffering. But what I need to tell you is, from my experience and my research and my conversations, that you never get over it. You move on forward with it. Whatever it is that you went through it will always be fabric of your being. And that is why Kintsugi is such a fantastic visual, because that break is there, is just mended with gold, meaning that your growth is your wisdom. That, but it took break for you to get it. It's part of your history. Just like the breakage is part of the history of the dish, whatever happened to you goes with you, and you become a completely different person. What I found through my research, and I had done some research years prior about happiness, because I'm fascinated about the subject about happiness. So when I was searching happiness, I'm going to tell you in one word the secret of happiness. The secret of happiness is altruism. If you want to be happy, make sure that every day you do some good. Okay, you help somebody else. When you want to be happy and you want to buy a Louis Vuitton or a fancy car or go on a great trip, it's great. It's momentary happiness, but it's like chocolate. It's like a high and then a drop. When you do good for others, the memory that you create for helping somebody else, this stays with you forever and ever. So I was thinking, after you're broken, how can you be of service? And in this visual, you explain, if a vase is broken, a vase cannot hold water, cannot hold flowers. So how can it be of service? It can't be of service. If you can't be of service, you can't attain happiness. So you need to put yourself together in order to be able to be of service again. So here it is, my research. I interviewed a lot of women, white, black, Asian, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, tall, short, fat, skinny, from this country, from other countries, young, older, middle-aged, not middle-aged. And what I found is fascinating, because if you dissect what they did to reach joy, it is the same. So that means that we have, in essence, the method of what we need to do to reach joy. Is just a matter of implementing. There is absolutely no secret in anything that I'm going to write here. And I believe that the reason why we don't implement sometimes, it's because sometimes we don't believe that this is really going to make a difference, because sometimes the easy things that's so clear and obvious is what makes the difference, but we don't believe it because we're expecting some magical, very complicated solution to the problem. I'm going to go through those 10 things, and as I'm going to share with you some lessons that I learned from these women. Many of them are already up on my blog, so if you go to mikahfashion.com, M-I-K-A-H, fashion.com, on the top right there is a link for blog, and you will see some interviews. Each interview is the story of the woman, and the second part is what I learned, the messages that I learned from them. Eventually this hopefully will become a book, and we started doing workshops and in lecture series talking to women. We had one last night, and it was really fantastic. It was an incredible connection. I mean, you know, I'm standing up and I'm seeing a lot of tears and a lot of people very moved, and then they come and talk to me, and what an aha moment this was for them. So the first thing is that they absolutely hate being a victim. So let me I think I skipped one slide, that it said victim, survivor, thriver. People, when they go through hardship, there is those 3 steps. Some people remain victims forever. Some people graduate to survivors, and they remain survivors. And some people graduate to thrivers. Ultimately, thrivers is where really the joy is, okay? So who is the victim? The victim is the one who is like, why me? Why did this happen to him? I know, I can name in, like, I can, in 2 seconds, I can give the names of 10 people that deserve this over me. It wasn't supposed to happen to me. Why do bad things happen to good people? All of those questions, that's what a victim asks, okay? The victim is saying, somebody come and help me. Somebody come and solve my problem. And he stays stuck over there. He's very sad. The women who become thrivers, they always hated being a victim. That doesn't mean that they weren't a victim for a very long time. I spoke to one woman, Jacqueline, she's on the blog. It took her 10 years to be able to say that she reached joy. For 10 years, she was a victim, but she always hated being a victim, okay? They take responsibility for their actions. What does that mean? If something bad happens to you, are you really responsible? But I can tell you something. The women that I interviewed, they say things like that. This was my hardest interview. It took me 6 months to write it after I interviewed her because I couldn't even stomach the fact that I had to listen to the interview again. She was married to a narcissist. They separated. He wasn't home. He wasn't supposed to be home. He parked his car around the corner. She comes home from carpool. He's inside the house. To make the story very short, he brutally rapes her at gunpoint, and then he shoots himself in the head on her. And she needs to run downstairs, naked, bound, call 911, is removed from the house naked, never to return to her house again, and she has to start over. That was probably, I don't know, that interview was very difficult for me. She's since remarried, she's happy, she does have PTSD, but she's happy, she's a thriver, okay? She told me something that was very interesting, it stayed with me. She said, that first time that he slapped me, why did I stay? That first time that he controlled me, why did I think that that was okay? What is my responsibility in that? I didn't think that I was worthy of a good life. I didn't think that I deserved to be happy. I thought it was okay, and I allowed somebody to talk to me like that. So she has no part in the abuse. But the responsibility that she took was to try to learn what she could do to move on and be stronger. I'm gonna speed up because I have 2 minutes. They're ready to do the work. They understand that it's going to be hard, and they're ready to do it. They believe in the power larger from themselves. I asked if they believe in God or not, because not all of them are religious. Everybody either believes in God or in a power above them. They take time to introspect because the time, and Celine mentioned it, you know, you put the pieces together and then you have to wait. That is probably one of the hardest times, is the time that you do nothing. You wait and you introspect and you figure things out. And they do it. They get help. They go to therapists, they take medications, they have good friends, they go for walks, they start exercising, and they do whatever it takes. They read self-help, but they do things, they know that they don't have all the answers. Here's the self-help. They forgive. The forgiveness part is very interesting because I asked them, what about forgiveness? Jacqueline told me something amazing. You don't forgive the unforgivable. And then Catherine, they're on my blog, she says, Miriam, when you hate somebody, because we're all energy, when you hate somebody, that hate is a connection between you and that person because we're all energy. So if you don't want to have a connection to that thing, that person, that event, you need to sever that connection. So then you have to stop it and let it move on. So it's not a matter of absolving them, but it's a matter of disconnecting. Practice kind speech. That is such a huge thing. I mean, I'm trying to work on that way too many times, saying to myself, oh, I'm not so good in this, or I'm too fat, or I'm too this. It's time for us to stop. We don't talk like that with our friends. We don't talk like that to our children. We don't talk to that with our neighbors. Why do we treat ourselves so miserably? They're filled with gratitude. They write their gratitude. They don't go a day without mentioning what is so wonderful about their lives. They reach joy. Thank you so much for your time.